Hi, welcome to the 7-set video series on critical issues for purchases of residential properties in relation to building and pest matters. My name's Ryan Craig. I'm the owner and consultant for QC's Building Services, a company that's been carrying out building and timber pest inspections and is licensed in both areas within Brisbane and Greater Brisbane for almost 20 years now. And the reason I've decided to make this set of video series on the building and pest industry and important information for purchasers is because over the last 20 years I've been doing this line of work. It's astounding and become really obvious to me that there's a lack of knowledge from purchasers who are buying residential properties. It's one of the biggest decisions we make in our life, and there's 7 key areas that I've identified people really should have more of grasp on and know about, so that they're more protected and make better decisions in relation to potential property purchase. So really trying to give an informative set of information to people to increase knowledge and to minimise the amount of problems that can cause both financial and emotional for purchasers. So the 7 areas that are covered in the video are the incorrect manner in which properties are marketed. That's number 1. The number 2 is the different service levels in amongst the building and pest inspection industry, and that'll be covered in video 2. Video 3 is issues relating to vendor provided reports. That's becoming a more and more commonly practiced thing. I'll cover that. Issue 4 is building and pest issues in relation to the contract, the details of the contract, and what searches we would strongly recommend you do in relation to finding out about the property you're looking at buying. Video number 5 will all be about time allocation for the building and pest clause. There's some critical things there that I think people need to know more about. Number 6 will be verbal advice. It's a extremely common practice for marketing agents, sometimes vendors, to proffer information about their property of a verbal nature, and I'll cover the risks and factors associated for purchases in that. Number 7 is also a very important one, and that's going to cover the need for purchasers to make formal requests of the vendor for disclosure of any known issues in relation to the property they're looking at buying, which is not a legal requirement for the seller to do, and invariably there's often adversely an attempt by the vendor to conceal any known defects which may become known during the course of the inspection that we do. So the first video today is going to be on probably the most important factor for me that I think really needs to be addressed and more people need to know about it, and that is the incorrect way and manner that residential properties are marketed to the general public. So what I mean by that is most people will find out about a property that's available for sale via some forums, realestate.com, Domain, and all the others that are out there, and the marketing agent will present that property with a description and a manner and also about the characteristics of that property. An example would be maybe 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Now, quite astoundingly, what we've come to learn over the last 20 years is that over 50% of the time properties are marketed to the public, it is discovered during the course of our building and pest inspection and some searches done by our clients based on our recommendations that 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom property they were advertised on the internet is actually not even, according to the official website of the council who keep the records, is only a block of land. It's incomplete building work. It's never had a building application or something of that nature. So quite astounding really, because the consequences that I'm going to cover in this video, but 50% of properties marketed are not correct. It's scary. Most people believe what they're told, but you simply cannot afford to, okay? So why this is, it's all about building certification matters. So there are legal requirements when a new property is built, residential property, brand new, and there's also legal requirements for an existing property that has alterations or extensions or any building works specified to be under the building regulations requiring an approval, inspections and final inspection certificate under the statute law of Queensland. The specific law is the Building Act 1975 and associated regulations. Now, this is not optional for people when they do construction or brand new houses or additions and extensions. there are some changes, like if you build a fence that's under 2 metres, that wouldn't be subject to a building application. But when you do obviously a new construction for a house, you must go through and do an approval, and it must be closed by receiving a final inspection certificate. So on occasions where we do inspections on houses that are completed, that are brand new or existing, that have had significant extensions, 50% of those have not been completed with a final inspection certificate and therefore are not formal building work, or they haven't had a building approval at all. So we'll cover that a bit more. I'll give you an example of, let's say, a brand new house. So what would happen is a client will engage us to do an inspection on a property that they've got a contract on based on the information they saw on realestate.com. And let's just say it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom property, brand new, hasn't been lived in, and we get called out to do the inspection as part of their due diligence. What we say when we arrive, because of our experiences to our client, is, look, the house is finished, it looks lovely, but have you validated your product? i.e., have you gone to the relevant council authority and conducted a formal search with them, who are the only organisation that can provide you with what is on record? And have they confirmed for you that this building here has actually been approved for construction, it's had its inspections during the course of the construction, and critically, it's had a final inspection certificate which has closed the whole process down. Now, when they actually go ahead and do that, our clients, and this is what has stunned us over the years, but they come back over 50% of the time with feedback to us that it's not finally inspected, despite the fact it's been marketed in that manner as a 4-bed, 2-bath, and despite the fact it's legally required to be done under statute law, that it's actually not finally inspected, and they've been told by the council that this brand new building has not had a final inspection because of various reasons. Very problematic for the purchaser and far different cry from the way it was represented in the marketing. So another example we might encounter, if you're buying an existing structure, and let's say it's a 3-bed, 1-bathroom at the start of when it was built several decades ago, and in recent times it's had some significant work converting it to a 5-bed, 3-bathroom property. It's quite significant, maybe adding on a deck and a roof and a swimming pool. All of that work, new building work, would require an approval, inspections, and a final inspection certificate under the Queensland Statute Law of the Building Act. So on the internet it's been marketed as 5-bed, 3-bath. We go ahead and do the inspection for the client, and we advise them, hey look, it was originally a 3-bed, 1-bath. You do require formality and under the law to put an approval and get certification for this kind of work. I know it's been marketed to you as 5-bed, 3-bath, but we recommend you do a search with the council because they are the only people who keep the records, not the agents. Again, when that's done, around 50% of the time, the feedback given back to us is, hey, thank you for advising us to do that, because it's completely different. The council search results are completely different to the way it's marketed. And in essence, it's still a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home on the council records, because either it had no building approval lodged to do the work, or it had a building approval lodged to do the work, but it was never completed. And unless it has been completed with a final inspection certificate being issued, it remains incomplete and informal. So there are severe consequences potential consequences for people who own residential properties that have informal or incomplete building work of this nature. And we'll cover some of those. One is, you're not buying what you think you are, because the way it was marketed is completely wrong. So you're buying a different actual product than what you are, than what you thought. Now, part of that would be, if you are buying a 5-bed, 3-bath according to the marketing information, often that price that you would pay would be reflective of other prices in the area, or properties in the area that have sold that are 5-bed, 3-bath, which would be higher, of course, than a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. And that's the reality of what your property would be if you were in that situation, because it hasn't been finished. Even though physically the building work is converted to a 5-bed, 3-bath, on council records it's still a 3-bed, 1-bath. So the other consequences, you might be paying far much more than you should be because of the incorrect and false marketing, which doesn't reflect the actual characteristics of the property and the reality. Another big significant claim is if you take a consequence is if you own or take ownership of a property with any incomplete or informal building work, in the event of a fire for insurance claim rebuilding, the insurance companies invariably will have a get out of jail clause and a rejection of that claim, because they don't approve any claims where it is relevant to houses that have got any unapproved or informal building work. So another big factor of owning a property is insurance claim rejection, say for a fire. Of course, the other thing is, if you take a property that hasn't got a final inspection certificate, you inherit that problem, and there's no guarantee you may be able to get a final inspection certificate for that property in the future because of the complexities involved. How is a certifier or someone going to come in and certify work that they can't see, they need to see because the property's been completed? It's very difficult. So there's no guarantee you can get a final inspection certificate if you decided to buy a property that hasn't got one. So, and lastly, resale issues. You're going to, again, inherit this property, and at some stage in the future, you'll no doubt probably need to sell it. Somebody else looking at buying your property will find out about the fact that there's some informal building work there of informal nature, and they might not be as happy to buy that property, so it could prove to be problematic in that area of trying to sell it in the future without any inspection or certification done for any work. So the reality is this: the only way you can determine what you're buying compare what is being marketed to what the actuality of what you're buying is by conducting a formal search with the relevant council authority of the jurisdiction the property is contained within, i.e. Brisbane City Council, Logan City Council, Moreton Bay. They are the only organisations that keep the official records that people can be told what the characteristics of a property are. The only way. The marketing agents almost invariably never refer to that organisation as part of their marketing, and they'll always market the property how they think they want to market it, irrelevant of what the official records are. So you must do a council search to determine what you're buying as part of due diligence, in our opinion. If you don't, you're going to expose yourself on 50% of the occasions properties are bought to buying something that's not what you think and problematic. One other factor you need to be aware of is when these things come out after the client has done their searches and the council have advised them that, hey, you haven't got a final inspection certificate here, you've got a bit of an issue with certification. A very common response for the agents that we've seen over time is to dismiss the fact that they've marketed the property misleading, informal and untruthfully, which is in fact a breach of state law as well under the Property Occupations Act, and immediately turn to a attitude of, look, don't worry about it, it's all okay, yes it's wrong, we didn't know that, no big deal, just get it done when you move in. It couldn't be further from the truth, and don't fall for that trap, which is again commonly proffered by the agents when they get caught out from their misleading manner of advertisement. There's a number of factors that are involved with getting a final inspection certificate for completed building work that is wanting retrospective certification. One, you've no guarantee of getting it done at all. Two, it'll cost around $2,000 to lodge an application to restart anything that may have been elapsed or not finally finished. And it's extremely difficult with logistics and the amount of paperwork and certification you need. And how can you expect somebody to certify some aspects of the work for an existing structure where they can't see the framing because there's plasterboard linings, or the bracing because again there's concealment, or they can't see the footings because they're in concrete? How can someone say I can certify that, which is part of the process retrospectively? So it's very difficult to get retrospective approval for existing work that hasn't got it because of those factors. So don't fall into the trap of being swayed with emotion by the agent saying it's a piece of cake, just do it when you move in, it's no real problem. It is. Now, let's go back and summarise what this issue in detail for any residential property that is purchased. Number one, never ever act on the marketing information that you view on the internet, realestate.com domain, or any other avenue for marketing of advertising of residential properties. Why? Based on what we see, 50% are not true and are incorrect. The only way you can know what you're buying in reality is by doing a search with the government organisation or council organisation that maintains the records, and that is the local council. So we would recommend that you do that before you even put a contract in, so that you don't waste your time. Because as I say, 50% of the time, you'll be wasting your time in buying something that's not reality and what you think it is based on the marketing, which is understandable because most people believe it. However, it's not right on our experiences. Our very strong advice to anyone who find themselves in the situation under contract and then they're told via a search that, hey, yes, you haven't got what you think you've got there because there's some incomplete building work, is never ever to proceed with purchasing that contract unless it's legally formalised by your conveyancing solicitor that you won't take ownership or continue with the purchase of the property unless the vendor is going to get final inspection certificate classification for all of the work that has been done that has not had it yet. It's the safest way and only way you can do that because, as I said a minute earlier, that if you take it on board yourself, hoping that you'll get it because that's just what you've been told is possible, no, it's not. The only way you can guarantee it is making the onus on the vendor, and I think you'll find pretty quickly when you find out that they don't want to do that. The vendors mostly reject that. When I give that advice to my clients, it's because it's too hard and they know that they might not be able to do it and probably won't, and it's going to cost money. That's the reality of it. The other thing is just remember the severe consequences that we've covered. I just want to repeat those quickly. You could be paying too much for a property based on the incorrect information that was received on the marketing, because if it's marketed as a 5-bed, 3-bathroom on the internet, you're going to tend to want to pay more likely what other properties of 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom have sold for. The difference is you are not getting a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom because it's only a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom on council records. So you're paying probably way too much. You should be paying more for a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom price in reality. So the other factor is the insurance rejection for any potential fire rebuilds because of the incomplete building work. The fact that you may never ever be able to get a final inspection certificate and you inherit the problem of trying to have to do that with the costs and the difficulty of logistics of doing it. And resale factors. Is somebody else going to want to buy your property in the future if it's got incomplete building work or informal building work? And more commonly, we're finding in recent times, people are just not wanting to do it because of the difficulties associated. So, I hope this video has been of benefit to you and you found it informative. And I would really encourage to please pass this knowledge on and information on to anybody you may know that's buying a property, because when you think about the fact that there's 50% of properties out there marketed that are just not true, that they're misleading, and the associated ramifications for people who buy, who sometimes don't get told about these things when it's too late and they inherit it, is huge. So everyone and your friends, please share this message that is buying a residential property, because it's just so important to make sure that they know about it and protect themselves and never get into a situation where they buy in property which is incomplete or informal under the council records. Please visit all of the other videos in the 7-set series because there's some other great information in there as well, and our website also has some very good informative information in other areas, asbestos, the limitations of inspection, just informative stuff that I would encourage you to look at as well on building and pest issues for purchasers, and that's just our www.qcsbuildingservices.com.au, so our trading name, qcsbuildingservices.com.au. So hopefully if you find the right property in the future, we can be of some assistance. We'd love to help you out, of course, and we wish you all the best with your potential house hunting. Thanks for watching.